Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we're back after a bye. I'm excited to jump into this preview episode. It's a big one. It's USC versus number 15 Michigan in the Coliseum.
Yeah, I'm excited. It feels like we've been waiting for this game a long time since last year. That was a great matchup. And I'm hoping that this becomes a rivalry going forward as well. You know, I hope both teams get to continue to play each other year in and year out. Two blue blood programs. You're playing at the Coliseum. You play at the Big House, going back and forth. The jersey combo to me just screams college football. Yeah. I'm so excited to see that. It feels good to get back after a bye too. Unfortunately, we lost to Illinois a couple weeks ago, so you want to get that bad taste out of your mouth. But no better way to do it than go get a big time Big Ten win at home.
Well, I was going to ask you, Cody, you mentioned it, but getting that bad taste out of your mouth with the loss, what is that like as a player when you have to sit for a bye? You're also anticipating this matchup. It's going to be a good one. I know we're excited, so I can only imagine what they're feeling. How are you feeling with 2 weeks to prep for this game?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a bye after a loss because you have to sit on that for 2 weeks. You know, and I've won a game and then gone into a bye, and I've lost a game and gone into a bye. And I promise you those 2 weeks are so difficult because, like you mentioned, you want to go out there, get rid of that bad feeling, go get a win, turn the page, but you can't. You're basically having to hurry up and wait because after you lose a game, you know, you go back and you watch the film and you learn from the mistakes and you want to make those corrections, but you can only do that at practice. You don't get to go do that in a game and go apply it on the field. So it's a little frustrating, but either way, the good thing with this is we are playing a tough opponent. You have 2 weeks to prepare. If you give Danton Lynn and Lincoln Riley 2 weeks to come up with a game plan, I really like our chances. But this is a very good Michigan football team. They're better than they were a year ago, so it's going to be a tough task. The only thing I do worry about coming off of a bye is sometimes it's tough to hit the ground running. Yeah. You get in a little bit of a rhythm. Then you have a bye. Hopefully they can start fast, but sometimes you got to work a little bit of that rust off early on in the game. But the way that this team's led and the foundation and leadership they have on this roster, I really believe they're going to come out firing and be ready to go from the first quarter.
Sorry, one more question for you, Cody. Being in the meeting rooms, how much does adding another week of prep really change what you do for the game?
I think it's more so, and it helps for your opponent. Now, when you have those 2 weeks, they're not going to change who they are throughout the 2 weeks, so you're not changing a bunch of stuff, but you can spend more time watching film, which we'll talk about when we talk about this Michigan defense. That's great for Jaden Maiava, for John Ray Reed, for the rest of this offense going up against Wink Martindale. But you can work on things from a self scout perspective, right? Okay. If we're missing some timing things on the outside, get more reps with your receivers. If you're missing some things with the tight end, get more comfortable with some of those routes over the middle, work with Walker Lyons and Lake McCree, the offensive line. You have a new center and John Ray Reed right now filling in for Killian O'Connor. Him and Maiava can now, after practice, let's work on cadence. Let's work on some of our protection calls. Let's work on you understanding, the clap system or however I'm going to call the protection and then getting rhythm and timing with all that. So it's more so beneficial from a self-scouting perspective.
Gotcha, okay.
Because you know the game plan, right? You can, at this level in college, with the coaches, with everything, you can put a game plan in and go play in a couple days. So you're going to continue to watch more film and do all that, but things aren't going to change. What the benefit is for a team really during this bye week is to fix things that we need to fix, and also for this USC football team is to get healthy.
Yeah, great point. And Coach Riley said that to you guys on Trojans Live as well, so hopefully we'll see that show up on the field on Saturday for the Trojans. But I want to get into this preview, Cody. Before we do, just a couple reminders. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to watch the video version of the show on the USC Athletics YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on our socials, Victory Pod USC. That's where you can ask questions, and we have a good bunch of questions, Cody. Excited to dive into that later in this episode. Alrighty, Cody, like I said, the scouting report. Let's go into the general overview. What are you seeing from Michigan?
Yeah, this Michigan Wolverine football team is led by head coach Sharon Moore. This is his 8th year at Michigan, but his 2nd as their head coach. If you remember, he took over for Jim Harbaugh a couple years ago when he left for the Los Angeles Chargers. And Moore's first year with the Wolverines last season, he led them to an 8-5 record. This year, he has the Wolverines off to a 4-1 start with wins over conference opponents Wisconsin and Nebraska, and their one loss coming to Oklahoma back in week 2.
Now, what's interesting as we transition to the offensive side of the ball, I remember in our preview last year, they were struggling offensively, but that doesn't seem to be the case this time around.
Yeah, the biggest difference right now for this offense is they hired a new offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey. This is his first season with Michigan. Previously, he spent time as the offensive coordinator for North Carolina, and he was also a head coach at Troy from 2019 to 2021. This year so far, Michigan is 50th in scoring offense, averaging 32 points per game, and they're 36th in total offense. So they are a little bit better than they were a season ago. Last year, it was run the football and play defense. This year, they're starting to see some sparks on the offensive side of the ball.
So when it comes to your film study, what stood out to you about this offense this year?
Yeah, this is a spread offense that prioritizes running the football. So far this season, they're 94th in passing offense, but they're 13th in rushing offense, averaging 230 yards per game. This is going to be a big bounce-back game for this front seven on USC's defensive line and their linebackers. We struggled stopping the run against Illinois. We have to make that a point of emphasis in this football game. If we can't stop the run, then we don't have a chance. And that's why the bye week comes at a good time, because we can do some of those 9-on-7 drills and focus on having great gap integrity and also being great with our rush lanes going up against an athletic quarterback in Bryce Underwood. But don't let those passing stats fool you. I know I mentioned that they're 94th in the country in passing, but this is a better Michigan pass game than we saw from last year. If you remember when USC went to the Big House and played against Michigan, they ran the ball for 290 yards in that game. They only threw it for 32.
Yeah.
But Bryce Underwood is a lot better quarterback than what we saw last year with Alex Orji, Davis Warren, some of the guys that they had on the roster. He's young. He's still a freshman. He's raw, but he's extremely talented. He's coming off of his best performance last week against Wisconsin as well, threw for over 270 yards. He also has 3 games this year of 230 pass yards or more. He is starting to come into his own. The offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey, is getting comfortable with his play calling. You can tell that they're becoming a factor in the pass game just as much as they are in the run game. And once you get a balanced offensive attack, it becomes that more difficult for a defense. So I know Danton Lynn's going to have his hands full this week. Also, be ready for some gadget or trick plays, similar to what Lincoln Riley does here at USC. You're going to see some reverse plays. You're going to see some crazy motions that they like to do. Samaj Morgan's their guy at receiver that they like to send in motion, bring him back around, give a reverse, fake a pitch to the running back, and then get him on a fly sweep outside. So they do a lot of different things with that. You're going to see some pumps on some screen plays. They're going to run, halfback swing, tunnel screen, then pump it and run some go routes off of that. So you have to be disciplined. If you get caught looking in the backfield as a linebacker, as a DB, they're going to hit you for a big play. Chip Lindsey's very good with his play calling and setting things up, similar to Lincoln Riley. This is an experienced coach. He knows how to attack a defense. They also like to use 2 tight ends, both in the pass game and the run game, similar to what Lincoln Riley's been doing this season with Walker Lyons and Lake McCree. I'm very interested, though, to see how Danton Lynn plays that this week, because we're going to have Kamari Ramsey back, hopefully. He's good to go now.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if he's going to bring in a third linebacker like a Jaden Walker and play that base defense, or play nickel but keep Kamari Ramsey at that nickel spot because of his physicality. He can be efficient against 2 tight ends in the run game, and he also can cover some of these pass-catching tight ends.
Well, you and our listeners are on the same page this week. I'm actually going to bring up 2 questions that we had that are similar to what you just talked about. Squad Midwest said, do you think USC will try to come out with a 3-linebacker look to prioritize the run? And Lobo said, any chance we play an 8-man box after last year forced them to throw to win?
You can't. So starting with that, you can't go off of last year, because Bryce Underwood is a better quarterback than Alex Orji. No knock on those guys and Davis Warren and the guys they had a year ago. Bryce Underwood is a talented quarterback. He's still, like I mentioned, raw and still a rookie, and we'll talk about him more in a second. But we can't just sell out and stop the run, because they can hurt you in the pass game. But that's the big thing that I'm going to focus on this week, is I think Danton Lynn will start in that nickel personnel because of how much they've been throwing the football in recent weeks, and have Kamari Ramsey at that third linebacker spot or that nickel linebacker spot. But if they start gashing us in the run game, we're not getting a good push and we're not physical, I expect him to put Kamari Ramsey back at safety, bring a third linebacker in, and then sell out to stop the run until they can prove that they can throw the football. Because if you go out there and they establish a run early and they get in a rhythm and we're staying in nickel, you have to make a change. Those are those in-game adjustments, but that's where you fill the game out a little bit. What's the MO going to be for Chip Lindsey? Is he going to come out in the Coliseum and try to establish a run early, or is he going to take some shots with Bryce Underwood, who has a hot hand right now, and try to get USC's DBs flustered in the back end?
Well, you just mentioned Michigan's run game, and you've mentioned the similarities between USC. Do you see that in the run game?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones that they do in the run game that's similar to Lincoln Riley in this offense is RPOs. So it's not going to be every time, because even though it is a spread offense, they're going to get under center a couple times. It's not like Michigan State where it's a pro-style type scheme, but when they get down in those short yardage or goal line situations, they're going to get under center, bring in 3 tight ends, go power, go some of those protected runs and try to go man on man and see if you can out physical them. So we got to be ready to be physical down there and have our goal line package ready to go in this game. Bring in an extra defensive tackle, bring in a Kobe Pepe, bring in another guy, Keyshawn Silver, Josh Jarrett, get those big bodies in there on those goal line situations. But when they're in their base spread offense, be ready for the RPOs, meaning that they're going to have the run option, the pull option by Underwood if that end crashes down, and then the third layer of that is the pass option as well, like you see us do with Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, where they'll kick out a bubble screen, they'll kick out a slant, have a hitch route, a now route to where they have 2 blockers in front of them. So you got to be ready for that. But this is, speaking of the run game, the biggest factor of this offense. We have to be great at stopping the run. The offensive line for Michigan is physical. They're also athletic. And the big part of that and why that's important is because they can get up to the second level and block an Eric Gentry and block a Desmond Stevens and block even a Kamari Ramsey, who's athletic enough to scrape or get over the top. They have good base. They have good footwork. They're an athletic offensive line. They can hurt you on some of those zone read plays, but they can also hurt you on the power plays. They can hurt you in multiple different ways in the run game. Justice Haynes, who is the running back for Michigan, transfer from Alabama, is playing as good as anyone right now in college football at that running back position. He leads the Big Ten in rushing yards. The guy behind him is Wayman Jordan, who wears number 2 for USC. So if you like running football, make sure you tune into this one. Hopefully we still get after it in the pass game with this USC offense, and we'll talk about them in a second. But it's going to be 2 talented backs going head-to-head. If USC wants to have any chance at winning this game, at dominating this game, then this front 7 has to be great up front with their physicality and their discipline, because if they don't, Justice Haynes will make it a long night for the Trojans.
Well, we got a lot of questions about the front 7, so I'll just ask it here. Basically, I feel like the gist of what fans want to know is what to expect going forward from that group, that unit, because I feel like fans were a little confused of what they saw against Illinois, and I know Sean Cody said, they were just out-physicaled. Is it just one of those things where the mindset on Saturday needs to be, we're going to be the toughest team on the field right now?
I think it's 2 parts to that. The first is that you've got to be physical. You've got to go out there and control the trenches. You've got to be dominant. Can't just be the first group either. You've got to have those 2 deep, 3 deep guys that are going to rotate in this game. They have to be physical, and they have to go out there and pick up where the starters left off, because when you play a team that likes to run the football, that has a physical offensive line like Michigan does, you're going to get tired. You're going to get gassed. You're going to rotate a good amount. So the 1 and 2 deeps with this front 7 has to be great. But the second part of this is we have to play complementary football on defense. We have to rush and cover. And what that means is, if you go back and look at the Illinois game, there were times where we were getting gashed in the run game, so Danton Lynn wanted to start loading the box. But now you put your DBs on an island. And if you can't cover, then Illinois is just going to go play action and hit a slant on the outside and hit an RPO and then force you to cover outside and get a lighter box and then run the ball. So they were playing off of Danton Lynn in that game. You have to be able to have a 5 or even 6-man box and still stop the run. And that goes back to my first point. It comes down to physicality. How bad do you want it? Can you control the trenches? You've got to be disciplined and have great gap integrity. So it's not going to just take the front 7. It's not going to take the back 4. It's going to take all 11 guys on that defensive side of the ball to play cohesive football, play on the same page, and do your job for all 4 quarters.
Now, when it comes to key personnel on Michigan's offense, I'm assuming Underwood is one of those guys on your list.
Yeah, you've already heard me talk about these guys a bunch, but these are the players that USC needs to focus on Saturday. The first one, obviously, is quarterback Bryce Underwood, 6'4", 230-pound freshman, 59% completion percentage this year, 1,000 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception, which is impressive as a freshman. He's protecting the football. He's putting his team in positions to win the game, and he's not hurting his defense. As a runner, he has 27 carries, 181 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Again, you can tell there's times that he's a freshman, but he's also showing flashes of what you would see from a veteran and a guy that's learning and getting better week in and week out. In the pass game, though, when he does throw the football, his top target is Donovan McCulley. This kid is a problem. He's a good player on the outside. He really is. 6'5", 215-pound receiver, elite ball skills. He's dangerous on the perimeter. This is a game to where DeCarlos Nicholson, using his size, is going to have to step up. I expect him to follow around McCulley for the majority of this game when we play man-to-man. I expect that Nicholson's going to be the guy on him. So far this season, he has 19 receptions, 309 yards, and a touchdown. He's coming off of his biggest game last week against Wisconsin as well. Him and Underwood are starting to get on the same page. Another guy, and a familiar name from last season, is wide receiver Samaj Morgan. He's their number 2 receiver right now for this Michigan offense. And then my red dot player of the week is obviously running back Justice Haynes. This is probably my brightest red dot that we've had too. I circled this guy a bunch of times. He is a game changer on film, and USC has to be ready to stop him on Saturday. He's a 5'11", 210-pound junior. Like I mentioned, a transfer from Alabama. 85 carries, 654 yards, and 8 touchdowns through 5 games already this season. But more importantly, he's averaging 7.7 yards per carry. He can run through you. He can run around you. He's an every down back, and this USC front 7 has to be ready to stop the run.
Now, I know you've been more stingy with your red dots this season, but I'm surprised you didn't give one to McCulley. 6'5"?
Yeah, he's a good player. Last week he had over 100 yards receiving, so that 309-yard number is a little deceiving.
Okay.
He had a couple good games early on, but that's why he didn't get the red dot, because he hasn't been doing it consistently. But, again, last week, Underwood, McCulley, they had a big game. They're starting to build that rapport and that connection. So hopefully he's not a red dot after this week for the next team. But, yeah, we've got to be ready to stop him in the pass game. He's absolutely a threat on the outside.
Alrighty, Cody, I want to take a look at Michigan's defense. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. Alrighty, Cody, looking at this defense, for the first time this season for USC, it's a familiar name at the coordinator position. What have you seen from Wink Martindale? Yeah, you mentioned it. This defense is led by none other, which is a nickname, by the way, Don Martindale. There you go.
But he goes by Wink Martindale. I'm sure a lot of fans out there recognize that name. He is the architect. He is according to him, the OG of the system, of the scheme that you see so many teams use in the NFL and at the college level. What we use here at USC under D'Anton Lynn, that this is shades of that defense from that coaching tree. He has guys like Jesse Minter, who was at Michigan, now he's with the Chargers. Mike McDonald, who's now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and then obviously D'Anton Lynn, who was a safeties coach while Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore back in 2021. Now, Lynn has taken this scheme and made it his own, but you can absolutely, when you watch the film, see shades of what we do here at USC and what Michigan is doing right now on the defensive side of the ball. This year, Michigan's defense is playing some good football. They're 22nd in scoring defense, only giving up 16 points per game, and they're 18th in total defense. The Wolverines are 59th in pass defense, so they haven't been great against the pass, but where they have really excelled and been dominant is stopping the run. They're 7th right now in the country against the run. They're only giving up 77 yards per game.
Well, given what you just described about Martindale and his tree, I'm assuming that this is an aggressive defense on the whole?
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. This is an aggressive defense that loves to bring pressure all game long. First down, second down, third down, fourth down, and got to have it situations. Wherever you're at on the field, if I'm a quarterback in this game, I walk up and I'm thinking pressure, and then if it's not, I react off of it. But if there's safety rotation, if there's a linebacker tight to the line of scrimmage, there's a reason for that. Now, that could be that they're disguising it, which makes it difficult, but more often than not, he's bringing pressure. He'll bring a single linebacker. He'll bring multiple linebackers. He'll drop some ends on the backside. He'll also bring a safety or a corner blitz at times too, so running backs have to have their eyes on a swivel and be ready to go take some of those guys out in protection. You have to know that what you see pre-snap is not going to be the same post-snap. That's most important in this game, and that's going to be the biggest challenge for Jaden Maiava and John Ray Reed as to where they're going to identify the look, right? Okay, we think pressure's coming from the right. Go Mike 54, send the protection to 54. He may be just showing that. He may come a couple times, but he might be showing it and then coming from the left and bringing a will linebacker or someone else. You may see cover 3 pre-snap and think, all right, cover 3, I'm working my inside seams or I'm working my cover 3 beaters, and then at the snap it's going to change to cover 4 or cover 6. So basically what I'm saying is there'll be 1 high to start, 2 high after the ball is snapped. So you have to confirm what you see. You can't just predetermine throws. You can't get up there and say, all right, this is what they're running. I'm going to assume that's what it's going to be post-snap, so I'm working a slant no matter what. Because if you do that, then they go cover 2 with an inside leverage corner, and you're throwing a pick. And last year we saw how significant that was in that game. A pick 6 that changed the outcome of the game, that really affected the momentum of the game. That's what Wink Martindale makes a living off of, is confusing the quarterback and then creating big plays on defense off of that. Have to be great in pass protection this week. The other factor of all these confusing looks is who the heck is coming?
Yeah.
Who's dropping out? Who's pressuring? Who's blitzing? Who's going into coverage? Is the DN pressuring? Is he dropping underneath? There's just so many different looks that they can do. And then we get to third down, and it's a completely different ballgame all over again. So it is extremely difficult. Michigan so far this year has 15 sacks on the season. Oh. They've been great at getting after the quarterback. Martindale does such a great job of, like Lynn here, you always hear me say, putting guys in position to win, you just have to go win. That's what Martindale does, is to where if you're in a 5-man protection, he's bringing 5 guys, meaning that you get one-on-ones all over the field. If you're leaving the back end, he'll bring 6-man pressure. Everyone has one-on-ones. Now the running back or the tight end can't chip on the way out because they have to go block their own guy. He does a great job of scheming against your protection on the defensive side of the ball. Like I mentioned, they do a good job of disguising coverages, and they're starting to see benefits off of that. Michigan already has 7 interceptions this season, which is 12th in the country. Maiava has been great with his decision-making. I know he had his first interception against Illinois a couple weeks ago, but other than that, he has not really put a ball in harm's way. He's protected the football. That has to be a main priority in this game. You can't give Michigan extra opportunities on offense, especially how they run the football, because they're going to keep you off the field as an offense because they want to have those 6-minute, 8-minute, 10-minute drives and let Justice Haynes get going. So we can't give them extra possessions with the turnover. Be ready for the D-line or linebackers to drop into coverage. I already touched on this briefly, but why do they do that? Why is that important? Because as a quarterback, I may think, all right, they're bringing a Mike and a Sam pressure on this side, or they're overloading and bringing pressure from the right. Well, let me get the ball out quick, because that's what you're taught, is beat the pressure with the throw, right? If I don't have enough guys to protect, or we don't get the right protection called on, I can beat you with the throw on a quick slant or a hot route. But what Martindale does a great job of is dropping a 300-pound defensive tackle, which you wouldn't expect, into coverage underneath, or dropping a backside defensive end into coverage so that you can take away those quick throws. And now if you try to force that, they're going to get tips and interceptions, and they're going to create turnovers off of that. Or you go to throw it, you recognize that they're underneath, and now you're out of rhythm, and you go to panic mode, you try to scramble, and they get home with the pressure. So Jaden Maiava this week, right? Make the great protection calls. You're going to miss some. That's fine. If you miss some, just don't panic and try to throw hot real quick. understand that they're going to have droppers. So you can go to that next progression or just throw it away and move on, go to the sideline, watch the tablet. Okay, cool. They brought Mike Sam, drop the backside in. Keep that in mind for the next 3rd and 5, and we'll get it figured out on that next rep. They love to stand up their defensive ends on the outside for that exact reason. Either they're going to drop and they're already in a sprinter stance, or they're going to get pressure off the edge and pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. How do we slow that down, though? We have to run the football at them. Establish the run. Stay out of obvious passing situations so they can't just pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. But this is, and there's going to be some obvious passing situations. Lincoln Riley, this is still an air raid offense, although we've been good at running the football this year. But this is going to be a huge week for Justin Tauanu and Tobias Raymond. They have to be almost perfect on the edge this week to protect their quarterback.
Now, you alluded to this earlier. You said it's a whole different ball game on 3rd down. I'm curious what you see there.
Yeah, this is where, when Wink Martindale says I'm the OG of the system, this is where the system is made on 3rd down. They want to get you, and you have to win on 1st and 2nd down, but if you don't, they want to get you in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, to where you have to throw the football. Now, Lincoln Riley does a good job. I think it's going to keep Wink Martindale off schedule this week and keep him from calling some of his plays that he wants to where he isn't afraid to go for it on 4th down. So you wonder why, hey, it's 3rd and 7, why are we running the football? Well, because Lincoln knows, okay, I'm going to guarantee 2 downs here. If we're on the plus side of the 50, the 40, the 45, I know that I have 2 downs to get the 1st down. So I'm going to run it on 3rd and 7. That will be advantageous for USC this week because they can't just call all-out pressure and try to blitz off the edge or show a 8-man pressure and then drop out, and then they're light in the run game and we're gashing them on the ground on 3rd and 7. So it's going to be a nice little cat and mouse game. They're going to be playing chess back and forth. But when we do get in those obvious passing situations to where we are throwing the football, we have to be perfect in our identification, we have to be perfect in our communication, and we have to be perfect in our pre-snap operation, meaning that the communication between Jaden Mayava and John Ray Reed has to be perfect and has to be quick. You can't wait till the play clock gets all the way down and then try to make your protection calls at the last second because you have no chance to echo it out to the guards and the tackles, and that's where Wink Martindale makes their money, to where you're confused. So you've got to go up there, give a couple of those fake snaps, try to get them to show what they're doing, then make your calls. Ricky 54, Larry 30, meaning protection to the right, protection to the left. Whatever your protection call is on that play, make sure you give the offensive line time to make their calls. And then remember how I mentioned post-snap is different than what you saw pre-snap. Yeah. That's the same thing that they do on 3rd down. They're going to put 4 guys to one side, and they're going to have 1 guy backside, and you're going to send the protection right, and then they're going to loop that end and that linebacker that's all the way out to the right side all the way back around to the left.
Goodness.
And you have to be perfect up front passing that off as an offensive line, meaning that I need you to go, hey, in, out, while you're in real time trying to do your drop step and kick back and block and be physical. You just got, hey, pass, switch. Whatever your calls are, you have to be great so that everyone's on the same page, because you may be a left guard and you may end up on one play blocking the right side defensive end that comes all the way back around looping. So the communication is going to be key. It's not going to be crazy. I'm not trying to scare everybody. I don't want to make it sound like we have no chance. This is going to be difficult. We have Jaden Mayava, who's playing great football. We have John Ray Reed. I know Killian O'Connor's not out there, but he's a veteran, and he's played a lot of college football. We have guys that have experience up front in this offensive line. They had 2 weeks to prepare, so it's going to be a big week, but they got to be watching a lot of film this week and be ready for everything that Wink Martindale is going to throw at them.
Well, I was going to ask you, as a quarterback, what have you seen from Mayava in his pre-snap and post-snap reads as a starter?
Yeah, I mean, just his decision-making has really shown me that he understands not only what he's seeing pre-snap, but what he's seeing post-snap. And that's why he does that fake clap. That's not to try to get an offsides every single time by the defense. That's try to get those safeties to maybe rotate out of 2 high to 1 high to get them to tell if that linebacker's dropping into coverage or he's pressuring. So he's trying to see what they're doing, and then when he claps, gets the snap, confirms it post-snap. And he's not just going to his first read right away or locking onto a receiver, going through progression, going from 1 to 2, getting to that third option in the pass game, which is Lake McCree maybe on an in cut, or going all the way through the field and then finding Wayman Jordan or Eli Sanders out of the backfield on a check down. He's not just forcing the throw into tight windows. So I have no concern with him and his decision-making this game. It's going to really tell how much he's learned throughout this year and how much he's developed, and if he can apply that against his toughest test so far this year, and that's Wink Martindale on this Michigan defense.
Now, you mentioned something interesting earlier about maybe playing more 4th down, and I don't have the stats off the top of my head right now, but I know USC has been pretty successful on 4th down so far this season. If you're Lincoln Riley, do you kind of play into that where you almost weaken the wink of it all by knowing that you're using all 4 downs?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's who we've been this year. We've been a team that's not afraid to go for it on fourth down, even when we're on our side of the 50. And I would keep that same mentality going into this week, is once we pass our own 40-yard line, that mindset goes into, and your play calling goes into, I've got 4 downs to get 10 yards, to pick up a first down. And it's not because Michigan's a high-scoring offense. I mean, they're averaging 30 points per game, sure, but this isn't the type of game to where we have to score a lot of points to keep up. I like it more so as I would love to score a lot of points to try to force Michigan to keep up. They love to run the football. Bryce Underwood's getting better, but this isn't a high-powered, high-scoring offense. Let's play our style of football, this air raid, scheme that Lincoln Riley's made a living off of. Still established to run. Don't get me wrong. Get Eli Sanders, Wayman Jordan, get them going. Maybe get King Miller a couple touches as well, and make it a point of emphasis to run the football. But let's be that high-powered offense. We have 2 of the best wide receivers in college football. We need to use them. We need to threaten Michigan on the back end and have some of those explosive plays. But also, to your point, like we mentioned, when you go for it on fourth down, or on third down I have another down after that, run the football. And that keeps Wink Martindale and that Michigan defense in a guessing game to where, okay, it's 3rd and 7. We're not going to pin our ears back and bring our best pressure look and try to do all this mixing and matching stuff, because then you're going to lose gap integrity, and we run for 5 or 6 yards, and now we have 4th and 1. He's going to be constantly guessing. So it's going to be a great chess match. It's going to be cat and mouse. I mean, it's going to be Wink Martindale and Lincoln Riley. I don't know much more you can ask for. And then on the other side of the football, you have Denton Lynn, who is a familiar or a product of that Wink Martindale scheme, going up against Lindsey, who's a great offensive coordinator and has a lot of experience. So if you're a college football fan, we're just fortunate enough to be Trojan fans, but if you're a college football fan in general and you like good football and play calling, this is absolutely one to watch.
You kind of alluded to this, but given the disparity in the passing defense versus run defense, how do you thread the needle of making sure that you can run the ball, but also exploiting their weaknesses on defense?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to have a balanced attack. You want to be, and USC has this year, because if you go out there and it's, okay, we're a pass-heavy offense and that's all we can do, if they take away the pass, you're done. Or vice versa. If you're a run-heavy team and they stop the run, we can't get it done through the air. This team has shown that they can get it done both on the ground and through the air, regardless of who they're playing. Remember, we played Michigan State, who was a top 10 rushing defense, but they struggled stopping the pass, and we came out and ran the football all over the field. So I expect Lincoln Riley to come out and establish the run and try to be balanced. My whole point is, let's play off of that and feed the hot hand. If Maava is comfortable and the way that he's been playing this year, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I am okay with putting the ball in his hand this week and letting him go win it for us, right? And yes, the run game's going to help, and it's going to take some of that pressure off of him, but what we have on the perimeter with Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane and these tight ends that are the real deal, Walker Lyon and Lake McCree are the real deal right now, and Tanuk Hines is starting to get more comfortable. I would like for us to go out and force Michigan to try to keep up, find these explosive plays in the pass game, run the ball to keep them honest and establish our will, but don't make it a priority to where, okay, we've got to come out and show that we're the more physical team. Play your style of offense and force Michigan to react off of that instead of us reacting off of what they are doing.
Well, I want to take a deeper look into their personnel, Cody. Who have you highlighted on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I got a lot of guys on defense. This is a good defense. The first guy on the back end is someone that USC needs to be ready for. He's my red dot player of the week on defense. That's safety Rod Moore. He is one of the better safeties in all of college football. He's coming back from an injury, so he's only played the last 2 games, but he's already made an impact so far this season. And people were questioning if he was even going to play. He had a knee injury last season, and it was back and forth. Is he going to sit and just go to the draft? But he came out there for his team. He's a captain, a leader on this defense. You have to know where 19 is at all times on the field. The other safety next to him, a guy that likes to play down in the box, is Brandon Hillman. 23 tackles this year and 1 interception on the season. Now in the middle of this defense, a couple linebackers that USC needs to be ready for. The first one is Ernest Hausman. He is a guy that I expect to be on the field for majority of the snaps. They rotate a good amount, but I expect him to be out there for the majority of the snaps. He has 31 tackles, which leads the team. He also has 1 sack this season. The other linebacker next to him is Jimmy Rolder, 6'2", 240-pound senior. He has 28 tackles so far this season and 1 sack on the year. And then up front, I've got 3 guys that this USC offensive line needs to be ready for. The first one is defensive end Derek Moore. He has 1 tackle and 2.5 sacks this season. Very good pass rusher. He's going to be that guy that you're going to see. It's a stand-up defensive end on the outside. He likes to get after the quarterback. A guy on the inside you got to be ready for is Rayshawn Benny, 6'4", 305-pound senior. Why they are so good at stopping the run is because of Benny. He's a good player, has great gap integrity, and he's physical. It's going to be a challenge for the interior of this offensive line going against him all game long. And then the other guy, they have him listed as a linebacker in this scheme, but he is a edge rusher. He's that stand-up type of guy on the outside. His name is Jayshawn Barham, 6'3", 243-pound senior, and he is a legit and I mean legit pass rusher. He leads the team with 3 sacks right now. He has speed, he has finesse, he has power. He can do it all on the edge. We've got to be ready to stop him in the pass game.
Alrighty, Cody, I want to move us over into listener questions. Before we get into it, just thanks to Ralph's. At Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Alrighty, Cody, the first question we have comes from Rigo, who said, we've seen Maava make some great plays when he keeps the ball and runs it himself, but it seems like Riley hasn't used this very often. Do you think that they should have him keep the ball and run it more?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. This is the era of college football to where you expect a team to have a quarterback that can hurt you with their legs. And that's a nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators, because when you have, a scheme in place and a plan in place, you could make a perfect call. You could have everybody covered, rush lanes, everyone's in the right spot, but sometimes you have guys on the other side of the football that are just that talented, and they're going to still win that rep. So I think it comes down to 2 things. It comes down to having the right personnel on the field in those situations, but also having the right play call on the field as well, and guys that are disciplined and doing the right thing. But it also comes down to the talent on the other side of the football. You can't take away from a Bryce Underwood, from some of these quarterbacks that we faced in recent years that have hurt us on the ground and running the football. They're going to make plays, and that's going to happen. You just can't let it become consistent and become a theme, and that's going to be something this week to where I'm not too worried about Bryce Underwood's legs, and I'm not putting him in that quite a dual threat category because of Justice Haynes and the backs that they have, and he's also becoming more efficient as a passer. But it is going to be a challenge this week, and it's going to come down to discipline from our football team. Guys are going to have to step up and make plays, and some of these backups and guys that have had to play because of injury are going to have to make it a point of emphasis to leave an impact in this game. But Danton Lynn has to be at his best this week as well, and have spies in the game, and have Desmond Stevens or Eric Gentry knowing where Bryce Underwood's going to be at all times and be able to make plays when the play breaks down and he tries to take off and run.
SoCal Cards said, obviously Michigan's approach is going to be heavy run RPO. What seems to be the ongoing problem with defenses struggling with dual threat quarterbacks? I feel like we just never seem to have a good plan. Is it scheme, players missing spots, or using the wrong spy? Thanks.
The first part of that is he is correct. I do expect them to be heavy run RPO, but go back and watch some of this tape. Bryce Underwood's becoming more efficient as a passer, so that adds another layer in this. So we can't go out there and just sell out to stop the run. But there's 2 parts to that. It's you can be a defense that goes out and has the right play call on and has a quarterback spy and has everybody covered and everyone's in their rush lanes. But sometimes you're just going to face quarterbacks in college football right now, and that's becoming the MO, that are talented as runners, and they're going to make a bad play better. And they're going to make, if everyone's covered and the play breaks down and there's a free rusher, they're going to make a guy miss and go pick up some yards with his legs. So it's 2 parts to that. On defense, you have to be great, yes, but you're also going to face some talented quarterbacks, and they're going to win sometimes, and that's okay. It just can't become consistent. And when you have an opportunity to make a play on him, you have to capitalize on that. Because we saw against Illinois, there were times that Lynn was trying to maybe load the box a little bit, and then they would throw it, or we were playing coverage more on the outside, and we couldn't win with a 5-man box or a 6-man box. So you're going to try different things as a coordinator, and the other team is still going to win sometimes. But there were also a good amount of plays to where Lynn was putting guys in the right position, and as a defense, you've got to take pride in knowing that, okay, the other 10 guys did their job. It's my job now as the last player or the defender that's unblocked to make a play, and you have to make that play. And we haven't been great at being consistent with that yet, but this is a huge opportunity this week to go out and show that if the play breaks down and Bryce Underwood takes off, that Gentry's going to make a play in the open field, and Desmond Stevens and some of our safeties are going to come up in the run game and tackle Justice Haynes and not have missed tackles and missed opportunities. So it's back and forth. Yes, as a defense, there's times that you could be better with your game plan. You can make plays. There's missed tackles, but you have to give credit, too, to some of these quarterbacks in college football. Bryce Underwood is one of them that is athletic and can make some plays on the ground even when there's nothing there.
Louis said, if you were Riley, would you want to start on offense or defense, and why?
I'm starting defense every time, even as an offensive guy.
Really?
I love going out on defense first, getting that first stop, because when you go out there on defense first, you get a stop, the crowd's involved, you can be loud, especially at home. Right?
Yeah, okay.
And get the crowd behind you. They're not going to be loud if the offense goes out there first. They're going to have to quiet down so we can operate. But if you send the defense out there first, at home, sold-out crowd, put some pressure on Bryce Underwood as a true freshman in this environment, and force Michigan to try to set the tone on the offensive side of the ball. I like doing that first. Also, coming into a factor or playing into a factor in this game, or really any game, is that you want to know what you need to do at the end of half. Because if you can get a touchdown going into half or score going into half, and then knowing you get the ball coming out of half, there are times that changes the entire outcome of the game. If you can win at the end of the second quarter and win at the start of the third quarter and you get the ball on offense, it can be a huge factor. But, I love send the defense out there first, be loud, get the environment going. That's exactly, if we win the toss, that's exactly what I expect Riley to do.
Surprising from an offensive guy. Look at that.
Every time. I love to letting the defense go out there first, setting the tone, knowing if they score, all right, let's go respond. Or if they get a stop, let's go help our defense out, give them a 7-point lead, and let them go play on this next series.
We got a question from Chris who said, if you were in charge of the defense, what would you do more of, less of, or just plain different? I love Coach Lynn and company, so nothing against him at all. Just curious.
Oh, it's a good question, and I'm going to answer that pertaining to this week specifically. And obviously, if you listen to this entire episode, we have to sell out to stop the run. We really do. That has to be the point of emphasis. But in order to do that, in order to have a 6 or a 7-man box and bring Kamari Rams in, I would still leave Kamari in at nickel and let him play tight to the box, even if they go 2 tight ends. I trust him to be physical in the run game. I also trust him to cover some of these tight ends. But in order to stop the run and to load the box, we have to be great on the perimeter. And this is a week, I know we've been asking for it. I know we've been challenging this secondary, but this is a week where DeCarlos Nicholson and the rest of these corners need to step up. Lynn has to be able to call some man-to-man coverages on the outside and bring some more help in the box to stop the run, or else it's going to be a long day. And I know Bryce Underwood is improving as a passer, and he's getting better, so we can't just say, hey, stop the run and we win this game. You've got to be great. We have to be great in both areas, but we have to start first by stopping the run and forcing Bryce Underwood to try to win this game with his arm.
I'm going to guess you're going to give the same answer to Amy, who said, what's the number one thing USC needs to improve on defense to ensure a win over Michigan?
It's honestly, it's a two-parter. It really is. It's, again, the rush and cover term comes back up. We've got to be able to rush the passer, stop the run, and then cover on the outside. You have to play complementary football on defense, or else you're going to handcuff your play caller, and he's not going to be able to call some of these pressure looks because we can't cover on the back end. But if you can't get home with some of these pressure looks and you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, then the DBs have to cover for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, and now they're in no man's land and they're struggling. So we've got to play complementary football. That starts up front, though. The defensive line has to set the tone in this game. We were great in the first 4 games getting pressure on the quarterback. We struggled against Illinois. We've got to retain that identity and be a great pass rushing team, and then we have to cover really good in the back end as well.
Cameron said, he's going for the dagger. He says, is this a make or break game for a chance at the playoff?
Yeah, this is 100% a make or break game. This is a must win. This is 100% a must win. We know this. Coach Riley knows this. The team knows this. If you want to keep your hopes alive for this season, not only when it comes to the schedule breakdown and the CFP and all that, but mentally and the morale of this football team and the belief and the confidence and the fans and everybody involved, you have to win this game. This has to be a game that you go out there and show that you can compete in the Big Ten against a top 15 opponent at home, so you have the crowd behind you. You need to show that you can go out there and handle business. This is a good football team. They're 2 years removed from a national championship. I know last year they lost a lot of guys and we're 8-5 on the season. They weren't great, but this is a good football team this year. They have a lot of pride. It's 2 blue blood programs. This is everything you can ask for. But yeah, in my opinion, this is a must-win for USC football.
We're going from an intense answer. You kind of went into coach speak, and it's going to transition us to our final question. And it comes from Brian from MB, who said, I bet you would be a great coach. Why don't you coach, Cody?
Yeah, funny story about that before we get out of here. I actually wanted to coach first when I got done playing. I took some time off, and then I looked into coaching. But as I was going through that process, I had people, telling me, hey, this is an 11-and-a-half-month job. You just got out of playing. Are you ready to go right back into it? I thought I was at the time until I started speaking to some people in the broadcasting industry. And they said, hey, you're a former USC quarterback. You're media trained. You can talk well. Look into broadcasting first. So I ended up doing that and got an opportunity here at USC, and it's been great. So right now I have no interest in coaching at the moment. I'll never say never. I don't know what the future holds, and I've had a lot of people say that to me, that you should coach one day, but I've gotten some great opportunities in broadcasting. Things are going well. So I'm going to stay here right now in my comfy seat instead of going out there and
It's not comfy. He's lying.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm going to sit here for a while. But instead of going out there on the field and yelling at college kids for 2.5 hours and then sitting in meetings for another 12 hours, I'm going to stick with this for now. But yeah, like I said, I'll never say never, but I'm happy with what I'm doing right now.
We can have if you ever want to go back into coaching, we can have Emily do a hypercut of me being like, you watched that film? Just to be like, I'm a film nerd.
Seriously, my resume can just be
this podcast.
Literally the podcast, all the clips from this. But yeah, no, right now I'm doing broadcasting. Who knows? Maybe in the future. But I'm coaching you guys right now. This is my hoorah speech. You guys are my players.
We are the team.
Yeah, there we go.
Alrighty, Cody. Well, speaking of, you have me very excited for this matchup. Great coordinators going at it this game. Take us home. Take us out of this preview episode.
Yeah, I'll say this. If you're going to the game, be loud. Be loud. Be in tune with the game. Be involved. Don't, we have to create that home field advantage. When you watch games around the country and you see these atmospheres that are created in the Big Ten, and you watch Penn State and Oregon, and then you watch, a Texas, Ohio State. When you see these type of atmospheres, home field advantage, and I'm speaking from experience, is 100% a factor. That 12th man is not just a saying. That is a true thing. It causes penalties. It causes communication issues. It causes false starts. It causes delay of games. It causes everything. So you've got to be a factor in this game. If you're watching at home, we can hear you from LA. Yell at the screen, be as loud as you want. But, it's a great time in USC football. This is what you wanted when you signed up for the Big Ten, games like this. But it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't translate to wins and we don't go out there and handle business on the field. So should be a great one at the Coliseum. Trojan Tailgate Show. We go live at 2:30. If you're there, come say hi to us. We're up under the torch at the Peristyle, so we love when people walk up and watch the game from the set. But either way, love you guys. Fight on. Hopefully, we're talking to you on Sunday after a victory.
Look, all I will say is that's 2013 Stanford game, back-to-back timeouts because of the crowd. It makes a difference.
It was a sellout. It was loud. And even when you're on offense, you feed off of that.
Yeah.
Like, even though the crowd's not loud when Maya's going to be on offense and USC, but you feed off of that environment. And if I throw a touchdown here, or we have a big player, we get a run, and the crowd erupts, you want that. You go out there wanting to go score and get the crowd involved. So it absolutely is a factor. I promise you the defense feeds off it as well.
Alrighty, Cody, I'm excited for this one, like I said. But that's going to wrap it up for our preview episode. That's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.